There are moments in life when you just want to stay invisible. For Tyler James, this was one of them. It was a gloomy Tuesday morning, the sky still hanging low with clouds and the remnants of last night's rain. The kind of morning where people barely make eye contact and no one says more than they need to. Tyler stepped off the school bus in front of Roosevelt High School, gripping the strap of his backpack a little tighter than usual. He wasn't looking for attention, didn't want to stir up trouble. He just wanted to make it through the rest of the school year, maybe graduate in peace. But as soon as he stepped through the school's main doors, he felt it. The difference. Roosevelt High was bigger than his old school back in Chicago, louder too. The hallways were filled with groups of students who moved as though they were all part of the same crew, laughing and talking, bumping shoulders and barely noticing him. But some did notice. They noticed his skin, his accent, the way he didn't try to dress like the others. Simple jeans, a plain hoodie, and sneakers that had seen better days. He kept his head down as he made his way to the office to pick up his schedule, trying not to attract any more attention than necessary. A secretary behind the desk handed him his schedule with a smile that was just a little too practiced. "Welcome to Roosevelt, Tyler. If you get lost, just ask one of the student aides." He nodded, muttered a thanks, and slipped back into the hallway, already feeling like an outsider. First period was history. He slid into a seat at the back of the classroom, keeping his gaze on the window, not wanting to draw attention to himself. Some heads turned. A stocky kid with messy hair leaned towards his friend, whispering something and laughing. Tyler ignored them, pretending he didn't hear. By lunch, Tyler had fallen into a rhythm. Move fast, speak little, don't make eye contact. He sat alone at the far end of the cafeteria, a peanut butter sandwich in front of him. No one sat at his table. He didn't mind. Yet, he could feel the stares, especially from Jake Sullivan, the guy with the buzz cut who had been whispering during history class. Jake was the type who never wore a jacket, no matter how cold it got. He had that restless energy, always looking for someone to mess with. Alongside him were two of his friends, Ben and Tyler, both seniors. Ben was tall and wiry, always cracking his knuckles, while Tyler was a big guy, quiet but menacing, like a pit bull that hadn't been fed in days. They weren't subtle. They kept looking over at Tyler, smirking, nudging each other. Tyler ignored them, focusing on his lunch. After lunch, the gym teacher, Coach Walker, divided the class into groups for a basketball game. Tyler kept to the edges of the court, passing the ball but not taking any shots. As he walked past, Jake accidentally bumped into him, hard enough to send Tyler stumbling a step sideways. "What's up, Karate Kid?" Jake sneered. Tyler paused, looked at him, but didn't say anything. He just turned back to the game and kept moving. By Friday, Tyler had already developed a reputation, even if it wasn't one he had worked for. He was the quiet new kid from out of town who barely spoke to anyone and seemed to think he was too cool for school. At least, that's how Jake Sullivan liked to tell it. And in a school like Roosevelt, where gossip spread faster than the lunch bell, labels like that stuck quickly. In algebra class, Jake sat diagonally behind Tyler and whispered things under his breath. "Bet he doesn't even know how to solve equations. Thinks he's better than us." Tyler heard every word, but he didn't turn around. He just kept his eyes on the board, pretending to be absorbed in his work. After school that day, Tyler's phone buzzed. It was a message from his older brother, Marcus. "Everything okay today? Need a ride home?" Tyler smiled briefly. Marcus always checked in, always steady, always there. He quickly texted back, "I'm good. Just taking the bus home." Then he looked up and locked eyes with Jake across the parking lot. It wasn't a long stare, but it was enough. Enough to make Jake's grin falter, just for a second. The following week, Things started getting bolder. Jake started flicking paper balls at Tyler in history class. Ben tripped him during gym. Tyler didn't respond. He never did. One day, Tyler's backpack was knocked over in the locker room, books scattering across the floor. But Tyler didn't get angry. He just picked up every single book without saying a word. But Tyler was taking mental notes. Every insult, every shove, every challenge. He didn't need to fight. He just needed to be ready. Back in Chicago, things were rougher. Fights didn't break out over sneakers here. They broke out over respect. But even in that chaos, Tyler always managed to stay out of trouble. His father, Robert James, a former military man, had raised him with a simple rule. You don't start fights, but if one comes your way, you finish it fast and clean. Tyler had spent years training in boxing under a local coach. He'd learned how to take a punch, how to stay calm under pressure, and most importantly, how to stop a fight before it escalated. But he didn't want that part of him to be seen. Not yet. He wanted to stay unnoticed, to get through the year without making waves. But things were about to change. Wednesday came, and with it, the tension in the air was thick. Tyler knew it was coming. Jake and his gang were going to try something, and this time there was no avoiding it. Tyler had already seen the signs. The glances, the whispers, the way Jake looked at him when he thought Tyler wasn't paying attention. It was obvious that something was about to happen. After gym class, Tyler walked toward the locker room, but instead of turning left toward the bus, he made a right, heading toward the old, unused part of the school grounds where no teachers would be around. There, standing in a rough circle, were Jake, Ben, and their friend Max. Jake's posture was different today. Arms crossed, leaning against the wall as if waiting for something. "There you are," Jake said, his voice laced with arrogance. "Thought you'd avoid us again, huh? Thought you were too good for us." Tyler took a deep breath. His heart rate stayed steady. He'd been here before, many times. But today, there was no room for hesitation. "What do you want, Jake?" Tyler asked calmly, his eyes steady, his voice calm. "We want what's ours," Jake sneered, stepping forward. "I've got a little proposition for you. $20. You know, as a sort of, toll." Tyler glanced around at the three of them, each one trying to look tough. Max was shifting on his feet. Ben was cracking his knuckles. And Jake was staring at Tyler like he had all the power in the world. Tyler stood there for a moment, then slowly shook his head. "You don't want to do this," he said quietly. Jake laughed. "What? You think you can scare me?" he asked, taking another step forward. "You're nothing." Without a word, Tyler stepped aside, moving past Jake and his friends as if they weren't even there. He didn't flinch, didn't react. He just kept walking. But Jake's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, something about Tyler unsettled him. He wasn't used to people not reacting to his taunts, not backing down. Later that afternoon, Tyler's phone buzzed again. It was a message from Marcus. "I heard something's going down." "You okay?" Tyler smiled to himself, typing back, "I'm good. Just another day." But deep down, he knew things weren't going to stay that way. Not for long. Friday arrived, and the air in the school felt different. Whispers swirled like a storm, students glancing nervously at Tyler as he passed by. He knew they were waiting, but he wasn't worried. Not yet. The bell rang at the end of the school day, and Tyler slowly packed his things, taking his time. He wasn't going to rush this. He wasn't going to let Jake's game dictate his pace. As he walked down the hall toward the exit, he could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on him. The whole school was talking about it. The fight. The showdown. Jake and his gang were waiting, and Tyler had already made up his mind. He turned right, heading toward the old gym. The same place where he had walked earlier in the week. The place where no one would hear the noise, where the fight would happen, whether anyone liked it or not. Jake, Ben, and Max were already there, standing in their usual positions, like they were waiting for an audience. Ben was leaning against a pillar, Max was tossing a ball in the air, and Jake was smiling. "Took you long enough," Jake said with a grin, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Thought you might have chickened out." Tyler didn't flinch. "I'm here," he said calmly. "What do you want from me?" Jake stepped closer, his grin widening. "We're gonna settle this. You're gonna give us that $20, and we're gonna call it even. But don't think for a second that you're gonna walk away without paying the price for acting like you own this place." Tyler took a deep breath, his eyes cold and steady. He wasn't intimidated by Jake's words, and he certainly wasn't afraid of a fight. "I told you already, I'm not giving you anything, and if you think this is a game, you're about to find out how wrong you are." There was a pause. Jake's smile faltered, and Ben and Max exchanged glances. They didn't know how to respond to someone who wasn't backing down. They weren't used to this. Jake's fist shot forward. It was quick, wild, and sloppy, just like Tyler had expected. But Tyler was ready. He didn't dodge or block. Instead, he moved with precision, stepping to the side and grabbing Jake's wrist mid-swing, twisting it in a way that sent Jake off balance. Jake stumbled, his face contorted in confusion as he tried to recover. Ben rushed in next, throwing a punch. Tyler didn't even hesitate. He used Ben's momentum against him, sidestepping and sweeping Ben's leg out from under him. Max, seeing that his friends were quickly defeated, charged like a bull. But Tyler had already seen enough. He knew exactly what Max was going to do. A quick palm strike to Max's chest, followed by a leg sweep, took him down in an instant. The entire fight had lasted less than 15 seconds. The three of them were now on the ground, gasping for air, defeated. Tyler stood in the center, calm and collected, not even a scratch on him. Jake groaned, trying to push himself up. "What the hell?" he gasped. Tyler looked down at him, his expression unreadable. "That's what happens when you pick the wrong fight," he said quietly. Without a word, Tyler turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the empty hallways. The silence in the air was deafening. By Monday morning, the entire school had heard the story. It wasn't just a rumor anymore. It was fact. Everyone knew what had happened behind the old gym. It didn't take long for Tyler to become the subject of whispered conversations. Some students looked at him with awe, others with fear. He wasn't just the new kid anymore. He was someone who had done what most people only talked about. The bullies had never been so quiet. Jake and his crew weren't just silent. They were avoiding Tyler entirely. They didn't make eye contact, didn't crack jokes, didn't even stand near him. It was as if they were pretending he didn't exist. It wasn't just the students who noticed. The teachers had their eyes on him too. Mr. Reed, the history teacher, had started calling on Tyler more often. Mr. Harris, the gym coach, had given him an approving nod after class. Even the principal, Mrs. Anderson, had asked him how his weekend had gone. Tyler didn't mind the attention. He wasn't seeking it, but he didn't shy away from it either. He simply kept to his routine. Show up, stay quiet, focus. But as the days passed, something unexpected happened. Tyler found himself surrounded by a group of students who wanted to learn. They didn't care about the fights or the rumors. They cared about the way Tyler carried himself. They wanted to know how to be like him. Devin Lee was the first to approach him. Quiet and introspective, Devin had always been a loner. But after seeing what Tyler had done, something inside him changed. He approached Tyler one afternoon, shy but determined. You, you really know how to handle yourself, Devin said, looking up at Tyler with admiration. I've been thinking about it for days. How do you stay so calm, so focused? Tyler shrugged slightly, a small smile on his face. It's not about being tough. It's about knowing what you're capable of and choosing when to use it. Devin thought about it for a moment, then nodded. Can you teach me? How to be calm? How to handle things without losing control? Tyler didn't hesitate. All right, he said, looking at Devin seriously. But first things first, you don't train so you can fight. You train so you don't have to. From then on, Tyler started meeting with Devin after school, teaching him small techniques to stay calm, to breathe, to focus. Soon, other students started joining them. Tyler's quiet leadership began to spread. The group grew over time. They weren't just learning how to defend themselves. They were learning how to walk through life with confidence, how to face challenges without letting fear take over. One afternoon, after a particularly intense practice session, Jake showed up. He stood at the edge of the group, watching them in silence. Tyler noticed him but didn't say anything. After a few moments, Jake stepped forward. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said, his voice low. I just wanted to say I was wrong. You taught me something. I never got checked before. But I deserved it. Tyler looked at him, calm and steady. I'm not here to make enemies, Jake, he said quietly. Just change how you treat people. It's all it takes. Jake nodded, not saying anything more. He turned and walked away, leaving Tyler and the group to continue their practice. As the weeks passed, things at school began to change in ways that Tyler hadn't expected. The bullies hadn't disappeared, but they were no longer the dominant force they once were. Tyler didn't seek the spotlight, but it seemed to find him regardless. Every time he walked through the halls, students greeted him with a nod or a fist bump. It wasn't out of fear anymore, it was out of respect. Even the teachers started to treat him differently. Mrs. Whitmore, the English teacher, often asked Tyler for his opinion during class discussions. The principal, Mrs. Anderson, would smile and wave when she saw him in the hallway. But it wasn't just about respect anymore. There was a quiet understanding that had begun to form among the students. Tyler had changed the atmosphere of the school without even trying. One day, after school, Tyler found himself walking out the doors of the school when a voice called out to him. Tyler! It was Devin. He had been waiting for him by the front gate, as usual. I've been thinking about what you said, about not training to fight, but to avoid it. I think I get it now. Tyler smiled, nodding slightly. It's all about knowing when to act and when to walk away, he said, his voice calm as always. But it's not easy. It takes time. Devin looked at Tyler, a sense of determination in his eyes. I want to learn more, not just about how to fight, but about how to carry myself. Like you. Tyler nodded, then said something that Devin would never forget. You don't need to be like me. Just be the best version of yourself. And so, the group continued to meet after school. It wasn't about fighting or defending themselves anymore. It was about growth, both mental and physical. Tyler had unknowingly become a mentor, teaching not just the physical discipline of karate, but the mental strength that came with it. Jake, who had once been one of Tyler's tormentors, started showing up more often at practice sessions. He never said much, but the change was clear. He wasn't just there to watch anymore. He was there to learn. One afternoon, Tyler looked at the group gathered in the gym, practicing their movements with quiet focus. He realized something. He had started a ripple effect, something that went beyond just defending himself or others. It was about changing the culture. And just like that, Tyler became a leader, not because he wanted to be, but because he showed others how to stand tall without fighting back, how to walk through life with quiet strength. The real victory wasn't the fight behind the gym. It was the way the students changed their mindset, the way they began to see strength as something that could be quiet, controlled, and peaceful. The bell rang one Friday afternoon, signaling the end of the school week. As Tyler walked out, he noticed something different. Students were smiling, nodding at him, and a few even offered him high fives. It wasn't about fear anymore. It was about understanding. And for the first time, Tyler felt like he truly belonged. By the time spring rolled around, the school had transformed in subtle yet powerful ways. The halls that used to be filled with whispers of fear and tension now had a different kind of energy. Students, once intimidated, now carried themselves with a little more confidence. Tyler's name wasn't just mentioned during hushed conversations anymore. It had become a symbol of calm strength, someone who didn't need to speak loudly to be heard. One afternoon, as the school year neared its end, Tyler was walking through the courtyard when he was approached by a group of freshmen. One of them, a shy girl with glasses, spoke up hesitantly. "Are you Tyler? The guy who took down Cody and his crew?" she asked. The other students stood behind her, looking at Tyler with a mix of curiosity and admiration. Tyler chuckled softly, but it wasn't in a mocking way. "Yeah, I guess that's me," he said with a small smile. "But I didn't do it to show off or prove anything. I did it because it was the right thing to do." The girl nodded, looking at Tyler in awe. "That's really cool. Can you teach us how to be calm like you? I mean, not fight, but stand up for ourselves?" Tyler thought for a moment. He looked at the group of freshmen, timid, uncertain, but eager to learn. He could see the same fear in their eyes that he had once felt. "All right," Tyler said with a nod. "But first, let me make one thing clear. Being calm doesn't mean being passive. It means being in control, knowing when to act and when to let things go. It's about making smart decisions." The group listened intently, hanging on every word. Tyler could feel the responsibility weighing on him, but he also felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He was doing what he had always wanted, making a real difference. In the following weeks, Tyler continued meeting with the freshmen after school. They practiced movements, focused on breath control, and discussed how to handle difficult situations without resorting to violence. It wasn't easy, but Tyler's steady leadership made it seem like the most natural thing in the world. One day, as the last day of school approached, Tyler was called into the principal's office. Mrs. Anderson smiled at him, her usual stern demeanor softened by a hint of pride. "Tyler," she began, "I've been hearing a lot of good things about you. You've made a real difference here. Not just in terms of the fights you stopped, but the way you've inspired others to stand up for themselves." Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his seat, but his voice remained calm. "I didn't do it for recognition, ma'am. I just did what was right." Mrs. Anderson nodded, as if she expected nothing less. "I know, Tyler, and that's exactly why I'm proud of you. You're not just a student here. You're a leader." Tyler left the office feeling a bit overwhelmed, but also fulfilled. The year had been a journey, one that had tested his strength, his patience, and his resolve. But he had come out stronger, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. On the last day of school, Tyler stood at the entrance, watching his classmates gather in the courtyard for the end-of-year assembly. As they called out his name to receive the Leadership Through Action Award, Tyler stepped up to the stage, his heart steady and his mind focused. As he accepted the award, he didn't make a speech. He simply nodded to the crowd, acknowledging their respect, but also his gratitude. The students cheered, not because of the award, but because of what it represented. It was a victory for all of them, a victory of calm, control, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing who you are. Tyler had found his place, not just in the school, but within himself.